Welcome everybody to day 2 of TJ Talks the News. I am TJ here with you, and I am already done with this series. Day 1 was interesting. I think because I've been cooped up for so long without anybody to talk to, without anybody to share my thoughts with, that I just kind of exploded. With lots of profanity too. I'm going to try to tone that down a little bit. Maybe not. I don't know. We'll fucking see, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. It's news in and of itself is just a fascinating topic. As you can see, we're at CNN.com today. And I guess part of the thing that bothers me about the first episode that I put out is I don't want anybody to see anything that I say as representative of what I believe. That's not entirely true. Okay, I should tell you right now, I lie a lot. I lie basically all the time. Although, I don't really consider it a lie, per se. A lie to me has malicious intent behind it, you know? Whereas what I'm doing is really just telling you what I happen to believe at the given moment, but may not necessarily believe a moment later. That's always been an issue with me, is I can never commit to anything. I'm surprised I've been married for almost 15 years now. But I can't commit to ideas, to arguments. You know, even ones that are pretty dang solid in my mind, I can never just go 100%. And so it's very possible that in these news episodes, I'm going to say things that are just absolutely insane. Like the school opening stuff that I talked about. The data shows that going to school is fairly safe, right? We didn't see these big breakouts like people expected and stuff. I'm still worried about Delta, and you know, I think having your children going to school in the midst of a pandemic is always going to be a little stressful. But I don't know. That first episode certainly had me reflecting on some things and stuff. We got a fantastic ad for Amazon. Yay! In-garage delivery has arrived. Fantastic. I actually canceled my Amazon account earlier this year. Screw that company. I also, this is this isn't really the same, but if you haven't heard, we're getting into the realm of drone delivery now. So you have these unmanned drones. And I was visiting, my wife and I got El Pollo Loco the other night, which is a restaurant. And they had on their website that they're going to be one of the first restaurants to try out this new drone delivery. I tried to talk my wife into it, because she hates having to go pick up the food, but yeah. Okay, let's see if we can actually get to some news this morning. So, like I said, we're doing CNN.com, and the reason that I chose CNN is because I name-checked it last episode and kind of, made a comment about them being credible or not credible. They're obviously one of the more credible news organizations out there, but I think just the notion of credibility itself is kind of problematic, and knowing where to find your news, I think, is one of the more challenging things. You basically, that's why I like Reddit though, is because you get this kind of consolidation of all these different news sources. Whereas going to something like CNN, you're only really getting the CNN perspective. Now, CNN is great at reporting the facts, but one thing that if you look at their media bias fact checker and stuff, like they do a pretty good job of that, right? The information that they report is factual. We could talk about what the hell factual means too, but it's also about like what they choose to report and what they don't choose to report, you know? But anyway, CNN, what do we got here? We got CIA chief met with Taliban leader. Well, that's interesting, because we have a long history, the CIA with the Taliban, of course. My son came up to me the other day, and he's like, "Dad, did you hear about Afghanistan?" And I was like, "What?" He's like, "There's a bunch of people over there, and we lost the war, and now people are dying." And I'm like, "Yay, good, fantastic. We're out of this pointless war that only was started to enrich weapons manufacturers. Yay, I guess." See, now that's an instance of me kind of going more towards this hyperbole and stuff. It's obviously a lot more nuanced than that. Is it? I hope so. Maybe. But I was telling them, like the Taliban used to be our allies, right? And we had armed and funded them to fight against the Russians. And it's just been this ongoing cycle of violence ever since. And so in my mind, I'm very pleased that we're out of Afghanistan. Well, we're not really out yet, right? But we're theoretically trying to get out of Afghanistan. You can't force democracy upon the world. At least it hasn't proven very successful for us so far. You know what does seem to bring democracy is capitalism, which seems odd to me. Trade routes seem to bring about democratic reforms in countries. But so I'm happy that we're out, but at the same time, clearly the withdrawal itself was really poorly planned, going all the way back to Trump, who signed the initial treaty with the Taliban, to Biden as well, who just didn't seem to take the necessary steps to get everything ready. There's still some uncertainty about what that would even look like or whether it was even possible. In my mind, the moment we signed the treaty, we should have started evacuating people. Now, of course, Americans can choose to stay there if they want. You have journalists, you have people doing business over there. Yeah, let me say something about CNN. It's very cluttered, isn't it? Compared to the Reddit one that we have. I know some of you may just be listening to this, some of you may be watching. It's kind of hard to see like where the news is. They clearly want your mind to go towards the images and the big headlines and stuff, but why Fauci's prediction for the pandemic's end is daunting for Democrats. So Fauci said that we should be able to get a handle on Delta by next spring, which is hilarious. Not really, it's sad and sucks, but it seemed like earlier this spring the Biden administration was basically ready to like call COVID over. They rolled back a lot of these restrictions, the mask mandates and stuff, and then all of a sudden Delta shows up, and it's like, oh wait, you better start wearing that mask again, and clearly it's going to be a lot more challenging, largely because there's a segment of the population that does not want to take the vaccine, that does not want to wear the masks, that does not want to do anything. They value their freedoms over that. So if this does last till spring, which I think we're probably going to be living with this for the foreseeable future. Let's hope that no more more deadly strains arrive, but it'll hurt them in the midterm elections. So that's why it's very daunting for Democrats, which is just ridiculous. I mean, we can blame the person in charge for their handling of it, but you can't really blame them for the existence of the illness to begin with, right? Probably not. When my son, this is an opinion piece, when my son was hospitalized, some ICUs in America had no beds. For kids, that must be really, really terrible as a parent to have to go through that. I'm going to try to steer away from COVID stories this morning, simply because, let's see here, where are we at? We got 8 minutes we've been going, simply because I talked a lot about it yesterday. How many episodes are they? Are they episodes? I don't know. News and buzz. New Bob Ross documentary looks at artists' complicated legacy. Are we going to learn that Bob Ross did some really terrible stuff? It always happens, right? You have this person that you look up to, and then it turns out they like murdered a bunch of people or whatever. Japan roller coaster halted after some riders report broken bones. That sounds like a fun roller coaster. Anybody else a fan of roller coasters? It's been years since I've been on one. I first rode a roller coaster, I think, when I was like 2 or 3 years old. My brothers were all afraid to get on it, and I went with my mom. But I've always been a huge fan. Although the local fair that we have here every year, one of the mechanics was just charged with like selling scrap metal that was being collected from the rides. So yeah, if I go on a roller coaster, it's going to be at one of these big theme parks where there's like constant safety checks. But I don't know. Let's see here. Beyonce becomes first black woman to wear iconic Tiffany diamond. Why is this news? I have no idea. I don't know, man. I don't understand the obsession with celebrity culture. It's something I'm never going to be able to understand. I guess in a weird way, as somebody who does YouTube videos, it's like the YouTube celebrity culture. But even that just kind of makes me nauseous to like, ugh, blah. I'm mainly doing this because I'm fucking bored, and it helps me clear my head, I think, to be able to get some of these thoughts out and process some of this stuff going on in our world. And also, I'm leaving this as a kind of thing for my children to listen to long after I'm gone, and my great grandchildren and all that kind of stuff. Assuming we're still here by then, who knows? Let's see here. Kroger's stock is at a record high. Well done, Kroger. FAA releases PSA targeting unruly passengers. So they've actually been floating some possible rule changes for unruly passengers. I'm sure that we've all seen these videos of people refusing to wear masks and throwing temper tantrums on the planes, sometimes getting kicked off the planes, getting arrested, sometimes leading to the entire flight being grounded and unboarded and stuff. It's been entertaining, that's for sure. That's where the conflict kind of comes in for me, is because like as society starts to kind of devolve and we see all this crap, it's really entertaining to watch, and so you kind of want to cheer it on, right? It's like cheering on the villain in a movie or something. But at the same time, you know that you're living within this hellhole, so it's like you want to resist it, but it's so entertaining. But you want to resist it, but it's so entertaining. What are we supposed to do? So I love watching those videos, but I know I would not want to be on a plane with one of those people. That is for sure. So some of the proposals, something tells me these would probably never pass, but I don't know. They do take plane travel very seriously, especially after 9/11. But including like serious prison time, like 10 years in prison, and like $1 million fines and stuff. So, what I don't understand is like if you choose to buy a ticket to go on a plane, knowing that you're going to have to wear a mask, like why would you do that? And I ask these questions where I try to understand other people's logic, and it's probably pointless because I don't think there is a lot of logic involved. Okay, more COVID stuff. COVID. Okay, I gotta say, from long COVID to new variants, here's why doctors say kids need to be protected. Well, then why are they in school, man? Okay, I'm not gonna go on it again, but I did read that this long COVID, right? So people who are getting affected, sometimes the symptoms seem to last long after they've recovered for the most part. But the scariest one that I've seen is cognitive decline. Like it seems to be killing off parts of the brain and leading to essentially like a type of brain damage. I mean, given that it's a vascular disease involving blood and blood flow, that makes sense, right? But it's also terrifying, and it's happening even in people who didn't really show any symptoms. And so somebody like me or my wife, who we caught it but we didn't really have any symptoms, could still be experiencing cognitive decline, and we wouldn't even know it. Maybe that's why I've decided to do this daily podcast thing. That would explain it, right? The best meat thermometers of 2021. Dun dun dun. All right, these are all just like products that they want us to buy. It's amazing to me the blending of news with corporate advertisements. I don't know, and also how they've managed to hide the advertisements and disguise them to look like news. Right, so we have an Amazon ad over here. It does say advertisement right underneath it, but it's right next to some other things that are news articles. Let's get some world news in, shall we? Zambia's president sworn in after pulling off rare victory for an African opposition leader. I think African politics and geopolitics and stuff is going to be really fascinating to watch over the next century or so. You have these kind of imperial powers, U.S. and China, kind of fighting over the continent and trying to help out the various countries so that we can develop good relations so that we can have access to them, but also watching these fledgling democracies come into existence and then sometimes fall out of existence, watching what's happening in South Africa. A good friend of mine, my family, is an expert in South Africa and South African history and political science. And I know he's been it's been kind of tough for him to watch what's been going on over there. Let's see here. Paralympic Games officially begin with vibrant opening ceremony. The Olympics, sports in general, are just something I've never been able to get into. No idea why. My dad's a huge baseball fan. They watch the Olympics every year. When they do like the Super Bowl party, I'm the one just making the snacks. I make the snacks because I like the snacks. All right, more COVID stuff. Taylor Swift joins TikTok. Oh my lord. It's funny when Trump tried to outlaw TikTok. This is why OnlyFans says it banned sexually explicit content. So if you're not familiar, OnlyFans is a website that was designed to allow artists and people who can't make a living other means. It's kind of like Patreon. If you're familiar with Patreon, you pay people to do things for you. Maybe they're going to paint you a painting. Maybe they're going to do a little dance for you. Maybe they're going to show you a fitness routine. Maybe they're going to perform oral sex on a inanimate object. All right, so OnlyFans was it was basically used solely by pornographers, right, and sex workers and these kinds of people who were using it to make a living during the pandemic. OnlyFans has shut down the service for pornographic purposes, so you can no longer go on there for that reason. Now, of course, given that it was like 90% of their user base, it's going to take a big hit. But from what I understand, and people are calling them idiots for doing this, but from what I understand, it had to do with sex trafficking and exploitation of minors, and they were allowing things on the platform, and whether or not they were allowing it or what was going on, seems pretty shady. So I'd say it's a good move, but I expect OnlyFans is not going to last much longer because it's basically just a Patreon at this point, right? Yeah. Let's see here. Style. Nothing in style that really catches my attention. Oh, let's see here. All right, well, here's one that deals with the weather. Heat index values soar for over 36 million. I'm sure that we've all been dealing with the heat as of late. It got up to about 115, I think, here at one point early on in the summer. Interestingly, it's cooled down now, probably because of all the fires here in California. We are not only hot because of the sun, but hot because of all the fires as well. And, they're expecting that this is basically going to be a new normal. We also have things like that new study that came out showing that the Gulf Stream may be slowing down, which could lead to further cooling in the northern hemisphere, particularly in Europe and the northeast coast of the U.S. So while the west burns, the northeast might freeze. I guess if you live in the Midwest at this point, you're looking okay, right? What do you have to deal with? Tornadoes? Right? I think that's your big thing. Over here we mainly have earthquakes and fires, I guess. Out of more California news, of course, is the governor recall election is happening right now. They're going to recall Governor Newsom, and we have I think there's like 40 or 50 candidates that are running to replace him, Democrats and Republicans. And I know, why is he being recalled? I think it's because of his handling of the pandemic, despite the fact that I think this recall was filed before the pandemic started. So, I don't know. I know California Democrats are panicking about that, and we'll have to see how it goes. I think he'll probably be all right. It is California. Elon Musk says Tesla is building a humanoid robot. Well, fan-freaking-tastic, man. Anybody else see that video of the, it's the Boston Robotics? Is that what they're called? They made the little dog robot thing. They have another one that was doing like parkour. It was like doing like little jumps and flips and stuff. And was pretty smooth, too, in how they were doing it. Now, Tesla's going to be, Elon Musk is going to be building humanoid robots. And we've all seen this predicted in the films, right? Going back to 2001, A Space Odyssey, but you have movies like Terminator, right, where the robots all end up taking over AI. Um, and I mean, based on everything I've read, it is a very real concern. Not necessarily the AI like going all evil and killing us, but just in terms of the impact that robotics and AI are going to have on the kind of the fundamental building blocks of society, particularly when it comes to labor and stuff. I mean, if we were actually able to construct these humanoid robots that can do the same things that a human can do, then at least in terms of physical labor, things like driving, you're going to have tons of jobs go out the window. Now, what are those people going to do? For work, for money? So some people predict, this kind of massive economic collapse unless we do something about it, such as universal basic income, something to guarantee jobs for people. Other people say, nah, this is just fear mongering. As the AI and the robotics develop, we'll see other jobs sprout up as a result, right? So new innovations lead to further innovations, which lead to openings in the job market and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know if it's tit for tat. Like, I may for every one robot that takes 10 jobs, it might create one more highly skilled job that's going to be very competitive. So I don't know. I think we have a lot of things that we need to consider as a society moving forward when it comes to AI and robotics, and that's just talking about the more kind of practical corporate applications for these things. Not I'm not even getting into the military applications for them, which we already see with drone warfare and stuff, right? Unmanned combat. So it's gonna be really, really interesting as we move forward into the age of robots, the age of artificial intelligence. If video games have taught me anything, it's that we are nowhere near being ready for artificial intelligence. Well, here we go. Here's one again about my state. I don't know why I feel like talking about California a lot today. State investigation finds the California Police Department violated the constitutional rights of residents. What did they do? What did they do? They apparently it was like department policy, or at least it wasn't against the rules, to taser people while they were already handcuffed and on the ground. I think it also had something to do with the way that they would put the handcuffs on people and making sure that they could like breathe and stuff. The city that this was that the investigation took place in has a long history of police abuse. Specifically, it's Bakersfield, California, has the highest number of police shootings, I believe, in the country. So, yeah. It's one thing, we had all those protests with about police violence and stuff, and nothing ever really came about because of it, right? There was all the defund the police, abolish the police stuff. I think to some degree the stuff happening up in Portland is still related to that. Democrats were elected kind of saying that they were going to do something about this, right, with police reform, but it seems like the conversation as a whole has kind of been put on the back burner, perhaps because of other stories like COVID and Afghanistan and stuff. All right, yeah, health officials warn people not to take a drug meant for livestock to ward off or treat COVID-19. Who are these people, man? I would love to meet them. I'm sure I have met some of them. I just don't. I don't want to take the vaccine because I don't know what's in it, so instead I'm going to take this other thing that I have no freaking clue what it is, but some guy on the internet told me I should take it, so I'm going to take it anyways. Or there's the stories of the doctors who like tried to give their patients the vaccine and they refused it, and now they're coming in begging for treatment, and it's like the doctors are like, why do you trust me now? You didn't trust me before when I tried to save your life. Why are you going to trust me now? And I feel like we could solve a lot of this by just by having everybody do a little bit of journaling. Just do a little self-reflection daily, where the goal is to criticize yourself and the choices that you've made. Even if you think they're good choices, just adopt the alternative perspective and criticize. It should be mandatory. Just like 1 hour mandatory journaling where you talk shit about yourself and how terrible of a person you are and why you shouldn't have done X, Y, and Z. That I think might actually lead to a better society. My daughter's going to come in and help us sign off for the morning because we got to get ready for school and stuff. But anyways, you guys, that's it for the news today, August 24th, 2021. Tell everybody goodbye, Libby.
Bye.
Bye. We'll see you all tomorrow.